Artificial intelligence has been making headlines lately. Probably the most popular one has been Chat GPT. And if you're not familiar with it, go ahead and go to that website there and create yourself an account and carry a conversation with this artificial intelligence. I want to tell you though, it's not as scary as it may sound, right? I think what has freaked people out, especially teachers, is that you can give it a prompt like this as well, and it'll produce something for you. So in this, here's one that is very ELA centric, and this is the response it produced in seconds. You can pause and read it if you want, and it's pretty impressive. And you might be thinking, well, it's way more impressive than my 10th graders can write, right? So I'll know they faked it. Well, remember, it's a conversation, so you can then tell it, oh, thanks. Then eliminate all the complex wording, and it'll do that. And then you can take it even further and say, now rewrite this as if a sixth grader wrote it, and it'll produce it that way. And so it's a little scary smart, right? And sure, kids can use it to cheat, right? So I prided myself in the classroom coming up with prompts such as this one that can't be Googled, right? So compare Macbeth to an ice cream sandwich. If you Google that, it'd be hard to find, or a sundae rather, right? You can ask the artificial intelligence to talk about that, and it did a pretty darn good job doing it. So there's that. Okay, but more impressive, I think, is that you can ask it to do something very random and specific, like write a song in the style of Snoop Dogg about service animals. And it did that rather cleverly. So below, I linked this document where I'm like, don't fear it. Here are some things to work around it, and also be releasing some ways to actually embrace it and use it to teach students to use it responsibly, right? So a couple of ways to combat it, right? And they're linked below, or map tests, teachbacks, and I go over in detail how to do those. And they're AI proof, just a little bit. But something else that will work is something like what I'm doing here, a wordless presentation. I know I'm using some words. Maybe I should call it a limited word presentation. But what I'm doing is I'm using images to communicate my ideas. Sure, I could do this a little better. I could refine this a little more, maybe add a soundtrack to create tone, things like that, right? But that's one way around it. Another way around this, also, that asks students to do what you want them to do in an essay anyway, is digital storytelling. And this is not a new concept. You can go to the Story Center, which is also linked below, to look at some examples of these mini documentaries that communicate an idea or a concept, right? Mostly through imagery. And then you can assign that to students, give them that site as to use as mentor text to model their writing or their communicating after it, and then give them a list of things to watch out for, like this here, which is also linked below. All right. These fine folks here, Kelly Gallagher and Penny Kittle, wrote a book for Essential Studies, and one of the sections has to do with digital composition. I accosted them at a conference once and got a selfie, but also, I'm a big fan of theirs. But they also have shared a lot of really great resources, which I've also linked below, including two Padlets where they have lots of writing examples, including columns on digital mentor text, and a mentor text as models to imitate a style, right? And so there's several that can be used there. So in coming weeks, be posting some ways to combat it, but also to teach students to use it responsibly, right? So don't worry, we don't have to fear the robot takeover just yet.